morning. Welcome to day 49, April 8th, Sunday. It's about 10:15. I just got dropped off down at Kimberly Creek Crossing, the road that Trent's Grocery is on. I didn't make it up to Trent's Grocery, so I don't know anything about that. Stayed at Woods Hole last night. What an incredibly nice place. My favorite hostel so far. And I had the family style dinner and the family style breakfast. And I think that was the most enjoyable part. But stayed warm, of course, sleeping inside. And talked to the people in the bunkhouse. They said it was pretty warm there. Not really toasty, they had to use their bags, but still much better than being outside. So I have to share with you something that happened to me yesterday, and the reason I ended up at Woods Hole. It wasn't just because of the weather. I had something happen to me, and I wasn't going to share it because it was embarrassing, and I also hadn't told my family, hadn't informed my family until this morning. But I did the 28-mile day on day 48, and I felt fine, and no issues except for a little more achy in the legs and feet at the end of the day. But once I got to the shelter, everything felt normal. Felt normal the next morning. Got up and got started, and after hiking a short while, went to take a leak, and I noticed I had blood in my urine, and it kind of freaked me out because I thought could be something serious going on. And I've had kidney stones before. I know what that's like. I did not have any pain like what is associated with a kidney stone. I know what a urinary tract infection is like. It didn't feel like that. Matter of fact, I felt completely fine, but for seeing blood in my urine. And when you're by yourself in the middle of nowhere, Virginia, and you have blood in your urine, that's a little concerning. So by the time I discovered this, I was 7 miles from 77. So I didn't want to turn back, and I knew that I had a few miles to go, maybe 4 or so to Lick Skillet. So I continued on. I got to the road crossing for Lick Skillet, but it was only 10:30. And I decided to keep going, try to make it to Trent's Grocery. And I knew that Trent's Grocery, or at least the trail guide on Guthook, said Trent's Grocery's rented rooms. So I thought if I went there, maybe see if it would clear up. And or if I started feeling worse, at least I'd be around people as opposed to being by myself in a shelter again. So long story short, I got to the road for where Trent's Grocery is, And this girl named Pizza there doing trail magic for some of her friends that were coming through. And I told them what was going on. And she offered to give me a ride up to Trent's Grocery. But then we got to talking about another hiker that we knew who probably let their problem fester and turn into something more serious. And I got to thinking, maybe I ought to get checked out. So Pizza said, I got in the car and Pizza said, am I taking you to an urgent care or ER? And I said, you know, probably the smart thing to do is just go get checked out. So there weren't any. I searched for urgent cares on Google, and there weren't any in Pearisburg. It turns out, according to Neville at Woods Hole, there is a walk-in clinic somewhere in the area, and she said I should have called her and asked her. But when you got blood in your urine, you're not. I wasn't concerned about, you know, what was the cheapest option. I was concerned about making sure there wasn't anything seriously wrong with me. But if you are in this area, there is a clinic somewhere. Call Woods Hole and they'll tell you where it is. So, back to my situation. Search for hospitals. There's one in Pearisburg, Carilion Community Hospital. So I ended up going there. Pizza dropped me off. Walked in. Lady says, can I help you? Said, yeah, I have blood in my urine. They checked me in. There was nobody waiting in the waiting room. So they took me back immediately. And everybody that worked there was just super nice. And one lady in particular, one nurse, I shouldn't say lady, she's a nurse. She's a professional. She said, oh, I love thru hikers. I love talking to you. And she asked me a bunch of questions. And Doc comes in, talks to me. I gave him a urine sample in a cup. Looked like Kool-Aid. And he took my blood. And they gave me IV fluids. Took about an hour to get that into me. And I came back. Said I had a lot of blood in my urine. But that all my tests, my kidneys were functioning properly. And nothing really seemed abnormal to the point where I needed to be admitted. So they recommended I not hike anymore yesterday. Which I wouldn't want to do that anyway, because, you know, being out in the woods by yourself in the middle of nowhere and blood in your urine, that's enough to keep you from wanting to go back to the trail immediately. But I said, can I hike tomorrow? He said, yeah. And I didn't really get a detailed medical explanation on all this, but what he said was that this is common among marathon runners. It's just a combination of dehydration and overexertion. So, got released and Pizza took me over to Woods Hole. But I tell you all this, I share this with you, so that if you're coming behind me or through hiking, you don't make the same mistake. So the moral of the story is, you may think you feel fine, you may think you feel normal, the dehydration can sneak up on you. It snuck up on me. I didn't have any indication that anything was wrong until I saw that blood in my urine. And they asked me, how much water did you drink yesterday when you did the 28 miles? And I know I drank 4 liters, because I started with 2 full bottles, and when I stopped for lunch, I filtered 2 more bottles. And I had those drunk before I got to the shelter. And I stopped and had that food and the root beer at Brushy Mountain Outpost. But when you do a 28-mile day and you're 51 years old and you're not a marathon runner, 4 liters of water isn't enough. So force yourself to drink water, even if it's not hot, and don't make my mistake. It's lessons learned by Reboot, episode 1. Let's hope there's not an episode 2. Okay. Hope everybody's doing well. Reboot, heading north. This is Dismal Falls. It's 0.3 mile side trail from the AT. And in the summertime, this is supposed to be a nice swimming hole. Somebody needs to come down and cut this tree out of the way. This would be a great lunch spot, but it's not lunchtime, so I'm going to move on. It's 2:45, and I'm near the top of Sugar Run Mountain, and we're looking down on the Wilburn Valley. And I've got a little under 5 miles to go before I get to the cutoff for Woods Hole Hostel. I've decided to go back there tonight. It's a little before 4:30, and I've made it to Sugar Run Gap, which is the turnoff for Woods Hole Hostel. And I'm going to go back down there and stay in a warm bunk and get some hot food, probably take a shower, and head out tomorrow for the last leg into Pearisburg. And with that, it's all good in the woods.